I've been sober for 5,475 days at the time of recording this podcast. I'm going to show you how I did it. It's not that hard. In fact, it's pretty simple. Are you somebody that just cannot understand and fathom the ideas of having 15 years of sobriety? Well, I'm going to walk you through in detail kind of the phases that I went through to get 15 years of sobriety. I know you're going to love it. Enjoy the show. Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I'm your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use, and thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com, and ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, Ben?
Yes, sir.
What's up, dude?
Chilling, man.
How's it going?
It's going good, dude. We had a adventure group today, so we did surfing, experiential group is the clinical term, because there's a clinical component to it, but we actually had some little clean waves, man, and got a little sunburnt, maybe. Not burnt, but I can feel it. Feels good to get some vitamin D.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Well, this episode is out September 17th. You know what September 16th is, Ben?
I don't. Is that your sobriety date, actually?
Yes, 15 years.
15.
15 years of continuous sobriety, includes nights and weekends. So,
it's a long time, Tom.
In the spirit of 15 years of continuous sobriety for myself, I think you should interview me.
Yes, I think that is a good idea. I'm kind of going off the cuff here.
Okay.
The proper terminology, off the cuff.
Sure.
All right. I am curious. You always reference growth and community and all that kind of stuff. I believe that there's definitely phases in recovery, and being at 15 years, like we end up seeing like, in particular, it's kind of a weird thing. Have you heard this before? At like the 8-year mark, you stop seeing medallions happen. Like 8 to 15 years, people like, you don't see as many medallions being picked up. Like people hit that 8-year mark. That seems to be like a saying, if you will, in the rooms.
Yeah, I think it's more of an expectation at that point, and it's less celebrated.
Yeah.
You know, once you get like far into it, I haven't picked a medallion up since, I don't even know. You gave me my last one. It was the Bill W. One where they had masks on. So it was
COVID
during
mask.
COVID.
That was 2020.
Yeah. So I haven't picked a medallion up in 5 years, you know, and I wouldn't have even picked that one up had you not just handed it to me.
Yeah. Well, and since then, I just gave up giving them to you.
Yeah.
I find them laying around the office, like really close to the trash can.
But what's your question?
So my question for you is, you know, I was talking about phases of time. In 15 years, you know, you're getting up there, dude. What would you say in particular? I think your first year is, you know, there's a lot of notable stuff that happens. What do you think changed the most if you reflect on yourself from day one to year one? Internal change that you now recognize 2020 hindsight.
So over the course of 365 days?
The first 365 days you were ever sober.
What changed the most?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be really anything emotionally or spiritually, probably.
Interesting.
It would be all physical stuff.
Explain that. What do you mean?
Well, from the day I went into detox, obviously physically I was a wreck, severely underweight because I wasn't eating anymore and just unhealthy. But fast forward through that and then going, you know, completing 45 days of inpatient treatment in Jacksonville. You know, I came out of there physically. I put on a lot of weight. I want to say I put on close to 50 pounds over the course of 45 days. just eating and eating and eating, right? But that's not even what I'm getting at. A lot of it was just I was used to hanging out with people that drank and drugged, and so in the first 365 days, for me, the biggest change from a physical perspective was understanding and knowing that I can do things without needing alcohol and drugs. Like I can hang out with people and laugh. I can have conversations with people that aren't fueled by drugs and alcohol. I can, go and exercise. I can work out. I can go to the beach. And a lot of the stuff for me in the first year was physical. It was tangible. I started to understand, like, I could pay my own bills. I didn't have to leech off of my dad, and that was a pretty big deal for the first year of my sobriety.
I like that you touched on the fact that it was all tangible, because let me ask your opinion on this. One of the things that we see a lot is some people, and this isn't necessarily like a bad thing, I'm not bashing this, but I think people a lot of times jump in, they believe that they grew the most spiritually. Maybe that they opened the door, but I think a lot of times people get almost like on a spiritual high horse in the first year. This happens sometimes, not all the time. But people tend to have not grown as much as they think they have. And what I'm getting at is I like the fact that you were honest about most of it was tangible and physical and not so much emotional. It's almost like you're just getting on the ride. And I think some people get the cart ahead of the horse, and we don't even know this till later in sobriety. Like, man, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, I wasn't as far along as I thought.
Yeah, that happens often with people because, and I'll reference myself, in the first year, I did have those spiritual kind of pink clouds that I was on, but that was really because of the people that I hung around with. And I'm not saying this was a bad thing. But I didn't understand the full depth behind spirituality. I didn't understand the depth behind having a relationship with a higher power, and really the deep meaning of it at the time. The people that I hung around with, we were all on spiritual pink clouds. I mean, going to church, and for God's sakes, they were baptizing people in the bathtub at the sober living house I was at.
Really?
Yeah.
Not an exaggeration.
No, not an exaggeration. So we were all kind of on this spiritual pink cloud. Now, the thing with that is that spiritual pink cloud eventually pops. And that happened for me at the 6-month mark. But going back to the tangible things, and I've talked about this on the podcast at length, I think tangible things in the first year of sobriety is one of the most important. Because let's call it what it is. We're human beings. We like stuff for the most part. We just do. And for me, growing up the way I grew up, with just me and my dad and working in the car industry, I always had a brand new car. I always had food on the table. I always had all the nice stuff. I was pretty spoiled. I never went without. And when I got sober and was put in a position to where I didn't have that stuff anymore, and I had to start earning that stuff, I didn't want to lose it because I actually had to earn it. Prior to that, I just took it all for granted. I'd have a brand new car, I'd wreck it, and then I'd have a brand new car within a week or two. I'd wreck that one, and then I'd have another one. And I'm not exaggerating. That happened probably 6 to 8 times. I had 2 brand new Honda Civic SIs, which are I love those cars. They're great.
Yeah, bro.
I had one, wrecked it after having it about probably 2 months. Got the other one, wrecked it after about 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah. And that's when my dad was like, "You're getting a truck." So that I got
enabler, huh?
Yeah. And I got a truck and I wrecked that, So, but the point is like I took it all for granted. Like, oh, I'll just wreck it and get another one.
I like that you brought that up. We're actually there's a member on the Family Reconnect that we do, which if you want to talk about that for a second, Tom.
RealRecoveryTalk.com/FRC. That's our Family Reconnect program. It is a lot different than Al-Anon. We encourage crosstalk. You have access to myself, Ben, Dr. Tambini, and whatever expert speakers that we have this week would have passed, but we've had some good speakers on. Rabbi Mark has been on. Both Maya and Nicole, our therapists here at Rock, have been on. We got a great speaker lined up for next week. Yeah, so realrecoverytalk.com/FRC. If you're a family member or loved one, this is something that you want to be a part of.
Shameless plug, because I wanted to reference something that you brought up, and that it just so happens that one of the mothers that's participating in this brought up this past week in particular, like her son is, I guess, living in halfway at this point, but his car got impounded, and essentially, like, he is taking care of that himself because he's upset with mom, if I interpret it correctly. Like, oh, I'm going to take care of that. I don't need your help, which I actually pointed out was like a good thing. To your point, when you have to earn it yourself, if my car gets impounded and I'm actually the one who has to fix it, like, I'm less likely to have my car impounded again because I'm going to be careful about it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, I like what you said, and you've said it a lot. Don't ever rob somebody of the opportunity of however you word that. But that's kind of the same thing. Like, my dad knew that, like, he had to stop giving me all this stuff.
Yeah.
He had to stop. Now, he would help me out with, like, a little bit of money here and there. But outside of that, but he also knew I was doing very well, you know? I didn't mess around. Like, I was going to my meetings. I was hanging out with the right people. I was volunteering at the Christian Care Center, handing out food to the homeless, you know, doing a lot of service work and stuff like that.
Essentially what I'm hearing is, because I would sum it up like this. This is kind of what I was getting at and why I wanted to ask you, and this is what it has sounded like. You, in the first year, you were just moving your feet.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think people hit, like, sober maturity until, really, if I had to, like, for sake of this conversation, put, like, a number on it, till they hit, like, 3 to 5 years. But, you know, that first year in particular, I think, like, okay, first year, all right, you're in. But, like, moving on to your growth, years 2 through 5, where would you say you grew the most, or what changes did you experience? And again, I want to ask about the emotional, spiritual, mental.
Yeah. So I'll stick with the physical part. I'll stick with the physical and then move on. The first year of my sobriety, I did not take into consideration my physical health really at all. I mean, I lived off of DiGiorno pizza and Ben and Jerry's ice cream for the most part, and coffee by the gallon, you know. But after the first year, and, you know, I was close to 260 pounds at that point. I mean, I was a big boy, you know. I started to really take into consideration my physical health, and I joined a CrossFit gym at the time. That's when CrossFit was really kind of very popular. And I started eating a little bit better and going to the CrossFit gym, and got my first job in treatment at a year sober. So that from year one to that second year of my sobriety, a lot of it was focused on my physical health, and then kind of the emotional, spiritual, mental stuff started to come into play, because by that time I had completed my steps. I had gone through the 12 steps. I had a couple of sponsees at the time, and I really started to understand, like, okay, there's more to this than just going to the 12-step meetings and hanging out with people and drinking coffee till midnight. And you know what I mean? Like it was, the first year was all about fun, moving my feet, hanging around good people, enjoying sobriety, right? But then year two, it's like, okay, what do I want to start doing? You know? And that's when I got my first job in treatment. But that's when I also simultaneously, my faith started building because now I moved out of sober living. I'm in an apartment and like I can do what I want for the most part. I don't have to go to church. I don't have to go to the meetings. I don't have to do anything. You know, I could just go to work and go to wherever and try and pick up chicks or whatever. But I continued to go to church. I continued to, at the time, that's when my faith really started building. I was reading the Bible a lot. I was hanging around. I was involved in quite a few Bible studies, all simultaneously working in treatment. You know, just being plugged in and kind of staying in the center of all of that. And so my faith grew a lot in that time, year 2 through 5. Which that trickled into more emotional. You know, my reliance in the first year of sobriety, my sobriety was pretty much reliant on, okay, what fun can I have today? And I know if I drink, I'm not all bets are off. But year 2 through 5, it's like, okay, there's a spiritual component to this that I need to continue to work on. And at 3.5 years sober, that's when I met my wife, you know, at Christ Fellowship. You know, and it just kind of built from there, continuing to hang around the right people, like spiritual leaders. And when I say spiritual leaders, I don't mean strictly people inside of a 12-step program. In fact, a lot of it was outside of a 12-step program. I was involved in different men's groups where they didn't know anything about sobriety. They just knew about Jesus, you know? And so I hung around them a lot, was involved in different men's groups at the church. And that's where I met my buddy Brian Wood, B. Wood, and Ryan Labs, who came on the show, and just kind of stayed in the center of all of that. And I think that's the common denominator in year 2 through 5. My spiritual, mental, emotional improvement and faith and my reliance on God was strictly because I was surrounded with the right people. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I want to touch on this too. Like, I think it's kind of cool we're talking about this in the respect of like expectations, both for self if you're an addict and alcoholic, or also for families. Like, because so much of the time you see, well, you got a year sober. Why isn't your life together yet? Like, this is absolutely a process.
Yeah.
Like, you are starting from ground zero like an infant.
Well, let me pause you there real quick and just say, had I gotten all the stuff that I've gotten in year 2 through 5, had I gotten all that stuff in year 1, there's a very good chance I would have drank again.
Why do you say that?
Because I can get it all right back.
Ah, I see.
It doesn't take long to gain all this stuff back. Yeah, it came too easy.
It's funny you mentioned that. There's a saying, people will go up to someone and say, I wish you a slow recovery.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of evidence, at least in my own story too. I'm glad you brought it up in your story, where like the things that I got slowly were the things that I tended to hang on to. Anything that came quick, I lost real quick.
Yeah.
It was just a pattern in my life all the time, man.
Well, we take it for granted.
Yeah.
And we see that even with our clients that come in here, you know, when, you know, the parent, you have a good story, and I don't know if you need to share the whole thing, but the kid ended up getting a brand new BMW or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He ended up dead.
Yeah.
His
no fault of his parents. It was just ignorance. They didn't probably know better.
Yeah. No, and this is a true story. And again, like ignorance, they just didn't know any better. But this kid was in a IOP program, and basically like his car literally came with a letter that said, we're so proud of you. You've made it to IOP. Brand new BMW pulls up on one of the delivery trucks. like one of them ones that has multiple cars on it.
Yep.
Rolled it right off, dude. The kid was dead within a couple weeks.
It's crazy.
Like, congratulations, you didn't drink like a normal human being should be. You know what I mean? Not that, if you're an alcoholic, you shouldn't be drinking, but.
Yeah.
So, interesting. Yeah, years 2 through 5, man, like, I feel like you start figuring out the direction you're going to go. And it's not necessarily by planning, it's by doors opening up.
Oh, I didn't have any of it planned.
I think dude, you should touch on this. Tom, I was going to ask you, like, we have conversations with people all the time when, for instance, we just had it the other day with a young man who's with us, and I came upstairs to sit in here, and you were talking with him one-on-one, I guess, for a while.
Probably 30 minutes before you came in.
And I sit down and, like, you asked me my opinion on the situation. I literally started giving him the same exact advice that you gave, or suggestions, I should call it, that I gave. But point was like, he was asking Tom, which Tom's a great person to ask, like, because their stories are very similar. This kid's from the Carolinas. He wanted to just go back to a simple factory job where he even admitted himself, like, there's no room for growth, there's nowhere to go. And Tom's like, dude, why don't you do like I did, rather than going back for you being a car mechanic in Pennsylvania, which you always, what was the place called?
Preston's.
And you were there for how long? From your 12 years old till what?
13 to 26.
Yeah, like, and you were going to go back to that, like.
Yeah.
But Tom was encouraging him, like, hey, stay down here and see what doors open. Because us with long-term sobriety and some life experience at this point are like, you're literally going back to a dead end rather than opening up the possibilities of what you can't even imagine right now might be presented to you.
That was the biggest message I was trying to portray to him, and I think we did a pretty good job of portraying that. But yeah, I mean, none of this, even up to this moment, none of it was planned. The only thing that was planned was 2 of my 3 kids. One of them wasn't. But
Stork dropped her off?
Yeah, pretty much. And and to back up, another thing that was planned was, obviously, I knew I wanted to get involved in the treatment space. So, but I didn't know what was in the cards in terms of like having Rock, having the podcast, meeting my wife, having 3 kids, and da-da-da-da-da. Like, it was simply by continuing to do the next right thing, continuing to surround myself with good people.
How long were you sober when you met Amanda?
3.5 years.
Amanda's Tom's wife.
Yeah.
3.5 years?
Yeah.
When did you start dating?
3.5 years.
Oh, like the day you met her? You're like...
Oh, well, no. Actually, no, I met her 6 months prior to starting to date her. Yeah, and she wanted nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But then it was, I mean, I wouldn't leave her alone. So then we started dating after about 6 months, and she had a lot of issues going on with herself and her dad and stuff. And, but then after 6 months, we started dating, and then we got married pretty much a year later, and then got pregnant months later.
That's kind of funny. I just put 2 and 2 together. Tom's really good at networking. He's like, I just wouldn't leave her alone. So you basically like used your networking skills on Amanda.
Yeah. So I'll tell this story real quick and then we'll move on. When I met her, it was at Christ Fellowship, and at the time they had a campus downtown West Palm Beach. They no longer have that campus there, but I started volunteering there. I wasn't. So I lived in downtown West Palm Beach at the time. Started going to Christ Fellowship, West Palm Beach campus, was walking up the stairs and saw Amanda. At the time, it was just this girl that I thought was pretty hot. And I'm like, and started just whatever, doing what a weird dude would do, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Like, and just small talk. And at the time, she was a campus coordinator. So she made sure the whole campus ran efficiently, you know? And she was a connector, right? Like she's a people person. But with that, she was always really busy running around. And so I just started saying, hey, is there anything I can do to help you? Like, blah, blah, blah. She's like, yeah, there probably is, but you have to go through a process to like volunteer, you know? And I'm like, what do I got to do? And so I had to like go through this process of, you know, just whatever the process is for Christ Fellowship to volunteer. So I ended up going through that process and start volunteering at the church. And that's when I got tied in with some of the men's groups and met Brian Wood, met Ryan Labs and another Brian that we know. And they all knew Amanda, right? And they all quickly realized like, oh, you like Amanda. Is that why you're doing all this? And I'm like, no, I'm a man of the Lord, you know? Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the volunteering and stuff like that. But in the back of my mind, yeah, a big driver of this was I was kind of courting Amanda. Like I was pursuing her. And there was this guy, Danny Best, and he was actually worked at the church. He was one of the pastors there, and he knew Amanda very well. And he told me, he said, you have to stop pursuing her. And I'm like, why? And he was like a brother to her. And I looked up to this guy. And I'm like, why? And he was like, I'm not going to get into details. You gotta slow down. And I'm like, all right, fine. And I did. I whatever, kept volunteering and stuff like that. And, you know, one thing led to another. And then he kind of opened the door. Like, and he told me, he's like, I think you're in the clear now after a couple of months, you know? I'm like, okay. So then I started kind of like in a manipulative way, you know, pursuing her again. And it was right before I think a 9 o'clock service started, and there was a Starbucks right by Christ Fellowship. And I just said to Amanda, I said, hey, I'm going to get a Starbucks. Do you want anything? And she's like, yeah, I'll take something. I'm like, okay, just text me your order. And she's like, I don't have your number. I'm like, I know. Let me give you my number, you know? And so we ended up exchanging numbers at that point, and then ended up, just, you know, doing all, you know, I got her the coffee, and then one thing led to another. And then I actually ended up proposing to her in front of the whole congregation on a Sunday night. There was probably 500 to 700 people there, and everybody knew that I was going to do it. In fact, I'll put the video in here it is right here. Amanda, you mean so much to me. I love you.
Get on your knee.
Yeah. Quit playing around, boy. Yeah!
From all these people, will you marry me? Woo! So, yeah.
Was she the first girl you dated in recovery?
Yeah. Well, dated? Yeah, I mean, yeah, kind of. I went on a couple of dates with some girls,
like ones that, the ones that don't really count.
She's the only woman that I've been with in sobriety.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that was part of my spiritual walk, because I, at about 2.5 years sober, I ended up watching The Rules of Love, Sex, and Dating by Andy Stanley. And he says something in there, and I've used it on this podcast before. Are you the person that you are looking for is looking for? And at the time I wasn't, but, you know, I started really, you know, kind of building my life back up. But then I also realized that, like, if I keep searching for this person, chances are I'm not going to find this person. So I actually made a conscious effort to just stop trying to find a girl, because every girl that I found was not good.
Not marriage material.
No, just wasn't.
See, and dude, that this whole thing, like it, and this is why I wanted to bring it up in this manner, like year 0 to 1, year 2 to 5, because we see a lot of pitfalls, man, and the way that you did treatment one time, which we've talked about,
Yeah,
ad nauseum on the podcast. Like you're a one chip wonder.
Yeah.
But then also, like, the pitfall of people start looking for the relationship right away. But like I was asking, years 2 to 5, maturing spiritually, mentally, et cetera, you mentioning the Andy Stanley, was that his name? Andy Stanley book, like, does somebody in their first year, like, read that? You know what I mean? Like, you gave yourself the time to grow into that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that goes back to everything kind of doors opened up, but doors also shut that I didn't, that I wasn't prepared for,
Yeah, it's kind of like, just to sum up the first part we talked about, like year 1, you're in the game.
Yeah.
You get thrown in there. Years 2 to 5, exactly what you just said. You find out what doors open and what doors close, and you did it without a plan. And I believe in doing it without a plan. Like, don't get me wrong. You can't just like wander aimlessly. People are like, well, I need a plan. They like overthink what we're saying. But if you don't get fixated on something and trying to smash a round peg into a square hole or whatever the saying is, like, know when it's not going to fit, dude, and move on.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think that I did a lot of that. Like, I knew, because at that, even at 5 years sober, I kind of knew what the difference between like God's will and my will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what's that saying? If, it's your plan, or I forget what it is, but God laughs at you if it's your plan.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it was year 1 through 5 was really, really good. I mean, it's all been really good, but years 5 through 10, I suppose we should go to now.
Yeah, let's do 5 through 10, because a lot happened there too.
Yeah, years 5 through 10. Let's see. Had my first kid, Levi. That would have been February 19th of 2016. So yeah, I was like at 6 years sober, coming up on 6 years sober. That was good. But I do think that this is important. At this point in time, I'm not going to meetings. So this is when I start to kind of fall off of what got me here to begin with,
I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to pause here for a second, and I want your insight and comments on this, because I've seen this a lot, and it's not necessarily you waited till how long were you sober when you had Levi?
6 years.
6 years. Okay,
Yeah.
so that this may or may not apply to your exact situation, and this may be why it's a little different than what you might give feedback. But like, one thing that I see very oftentimes, dude, is I see guys in particular, because the men's meetings I go to, I see guys have a kid, and all of a sudden they're gone. No more meetings, none of what they were doing that helped them get sober, not doing what was keeping them sober. All of a sudden, they're like, I've got this huge responsibility, and they're back out drinking and drugging.
Mm-hmm.
The way that it happened for you, man, having 6 years of sobriety, like, you were pretty well established and you are sober.
Well, that ties back to the tangible stuff too. At 6 years sober, I had bought my first house, had my own cars, had all the stuff that, tangible things that sobriety can offer people. And I didn't want to lose any of that, of course, you know. But the mental and emotional side of it too, like, I was in a really good spot, But yeah, that happens a lot. People get this stuff back, and again, I think it's, well, I can get it back again, and I don't know if people actually, if that thought actually enters into their mind. I'm sure in some cases it does, but I think that's kind of the undertone. Well, if I got it all back this time, I can probably get it all back again, But yeah, I mean, I had Levi at 6 years sober. At that time, we had already started Rock, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Rock was about 2 years old. That was a very rocky period, So I had got my first job at treatment at a year sober. Then I went over to another treatment center, worked there for 2.5 years, and then started Rock in 2014. And at that time, Rock was really kind of floundering, We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if it was even going to stay open, stuff like that. Meanwhile, I have a kid, I have a wife, all the financial, means that comes with all that stuff. And so that took an emotional toll because, mind you, I wasn't going to meetings. I was very disconnected from sober people. I basically was a new father, new husband too, and had to provide, And so I got disconnected from a lot of the people that I originally had gotten sober with. And then I ended up running into a friend of mine, and we're still dear friends to this day. And he told me about a meeting on Wednesday nights. He's like, hey, I'd like for you to come and check it out. And so I did. And that was when I started incorporating meetings back in. And that would have been probably at around, I would say, 7.5 years sober. There was probably a 3-year period where I wasn't going to any meetings at all. Probably from year 5 to, I would say, maybe year 7.
You want to tell him what happened the day you told Amanda you needed to go to a meeting?
Yeah, she thought I was going to drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. But I think that's a good point because, Amanda doesn't really know much about this. She does now, but at the time she didn't. I just basically said, hey, I want to go check out this Wednesday night meeting. I ran into so-and-so. And she got really concerned. She thought like maybe I was going to relapse, because she was used to me not going to meetings. She was used to me she was just used to me being her husband, being the new father, being home, going to work, doing the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was, year 5 through 10 was pretty, I guess, I was content, I suppose, is the best way to put it.
Content and complacent.
Yeah, but at like year 7.5, year 8, whenever I started going to that Wednesday night meeting, that's when the community aspect for me started building up again. I got plugged in with a bunch of guys, and that's when we started going on like the yearly fishing trip down to the Keys, and you've met some of these guys.
Yeah.
And really started understanding the importance of having men in my life again. So
word up. Let's hear about years 10 through 15.
10 through 15. At this point, I have 2 kids. When was Winnie born? October of 20. She's going to be 6. So October of 2019.
2019, yeah.
Yeah, so I had my kids in 2016, 2018, and 2019. So yeah, I guess I would have had 2, potentially 3 kids at this point. You had come on to Rock, and that was in 2017.
Yeah.
People were probably getting all confused with the timeline of this, so I'll just stick with year 5 through 10, or 10 through 15. This 5 years has been the most rewarding, but also the most challenging. Not in terms of sobriety. Like, I have not been at risk of picking up a drink. Well, I don't know. We're always at risk, I suppose, but I haven't had the urge or the want or the craving or anything. Like, I've had fleeting thoughts, which we all do, and if anybody says they don't, they're full of shit. It's been the most rewarding because this is where the most growth has happened in my life on a spiritual level, emotional level, physical level. Did I say spiritual?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, this is where the most growth has happened because now I have 3 kids, still married, have Rock. Rock is now doing very well, have the podcast and stuff. And, it's been very rewarding, but also very difficult. My dad had the stroke in 2022. So, and I think that's a good thing to touch on. Like, in the 15 years of sobriety, the first 10 years, I did not have a lot of hardship, really not. I mean, some financial stuff here and there, but for the most part, pretty smooth sailing. But in 2022, I believe, yeah. Or was it 2021? I don't know. One of the two, my dad had the stroke. And that was my first real, whoa, holy cow type moment. But ended up getting through that. And again, being where I'm at now and the stroke has been, 3 years, I'm reluctant to say that it was a blessing, but I'm not angry that it happened or anything like that because it, in fact, drew our family closer together. And then Hattie recently in January of this year getting diagnosed with diabetes. That really sucked. That was one of the most challenging things that I've had to go through. But again, there's a silver lining in it, from a spiritual perspective and emotional perspective. That is an opportunity for me to show up for my family, so.
There's this evolution that I always like to talk about, man. I this might be a little confusing, and I'm going to be contradicting myself. I always tell people the hardest thing I ever did was get sober. But then at the same time, there's this part of me that also feels like life is actually harder now because now it's not just about me, dude. I've got people that I have to provide for. I have more responsibility. I have people counting on me. I have dependents, if you will. And I'm not talking about just my kids. There's a lot of people that depend on us, dude.
Mm-hmm.
When you've continued to grow over 15 years of sobriety, you play a role in a lot of people's lives that need you in some way, shape, or form, whether that's at home, in business, whatever the case is. And I talk about it like this, where, life doesn't get easier because we got sober. We just get better at handling it. And that's because we get the tools, we learn how to apply it, all that stuff. But man, yeah, life nowadays, you mentioned the stroke, the diabetes. It's but to your point, thank God we're able to be there for those people today.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you've had, as we're living it right now, you're going through the same challenges, but we're going to save those for your 15-year interview.
Yeah.
Which is coming up in a couple of months, right? December 8th?
December 8th, yeah, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hard stuff going on in life.
Yeah.
But stuff that's natural, it's going to happen. It's unavoidable. Yeah. Life is going to life, man.
Nothing we can do about it. And you know what? Something else is going to come down the pipeline. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is or when, but something else is going to happen. So I think the main principles behind my 15 years of sobriety in the early stages, just hang on. Really. Just hold on and surround yourself with good people. And that's always my main message, I think, for especially people in early sobriety. And when I say early sobriety, I'm going to say years 1 through 5. I'm gonna call that early sobriety. Surround yourself with good people. That's going to be the best thing that you can do for yourself, because everything that they have is going to trickle onto you.
I liked your point earlier that I want to hit home. Not necessarily having plans that get in the way of what the possibilities could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't pigeonhole yourself.
Yeah, be open to any and all possibilities.
Yeah. If you ask me, if I'd be sitting here, even working in treatment
Yeah.
and doing this podcast and all this stuff, I'd be like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's what I was trying to portray to the young guy that I was sitting with, and he's not a young guy, he's 32. But he doesn't have a mortgage, he doesn't have a wife, doesn't have any kids. You know what I'm saying? I said, dude, what are you doing? Why are you rushing back to North Carolina? You know what the hell's there.
Yeah, go on a great adventure.
Yeah, if you want to go back, you can go. Just at least give this a shot. Because if you go back, and I told him this, I said, everybody goes back with the intentions. And how many times do we hear people say, oh, I'm coming back to Florida?
Yeah, for rehab.
Most of the time, and he even, in fact, asked me, he was like, oh, so I wouldn't be able to come back for like IOP after a couple of months? I'm like, no. What do you mean? How's that happen? I'm like, legit, the only way that you would be able to come back to Florida is, number one, you relapse, and we don't want that to happen. Or number two, you call us and, we try and get you into a sober living somewhere, but sober livings require you to have a job. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it.
Yeah, when you're in treatment, you have an opportunity to literally build your life step by step. And if you like put like a pause in there, like the steps kind of go away, the roadmap, if you will.
Yeah. So hopefully he just decides to stay, but you never know. Sometimes we gotta figure it out the hard way, I guess.
Biggest one, dude. You never know what doors will open.
Nope. Sure don't.
Don't be a knucklehead.
Well, it was pretty fun, Ben.
Yeah, man.
15 years. We're recording this actually before.
September what? 16th?
Yeah, September 16th.
All right.
Yeah. Now, this is going out September 17th, but we're actually recording it on September 4th, so hopefully I don't relapse from now until the 16th, because that would be really awkward, but I think I'll be all right. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, what are you doing for your sobriety birthday?
Nothing.
It does get to that point.
Well, the funny thing is my sobriety date and Amanda's mom's actual birthday is on the same day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she always kind of gets the celebratory dinner.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, at this point, not that I'm not proud of having almost 15 years, but like it's being sober isn't a thought anymore. It just is.
Yeah.
Like it's who I am.
Yeah.
I don't like have to wake up every morning and be like, hope I stay sober today. Like,
yeah. What do I have to do today to maintain my sobriety?
No, I don't wake up like white knuckling this thing. Yeah.
No.
And that is a gift.
Yeah.
And you can have it too.
Well, my main driver, and I think yours is too, Ben, one of them is family members and loved ones. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for my dad doing certain specific things, I don't know. I don't know what would have happened, And so that's why I think it's important that, family members, loved ones, you play a big part in this, a bigger part in this than you realize. And I'm not saying that you're responsible for if somebody is successful or not, but you do play a part in it for sure. So go check out Family Reconnect, realrecoverytalk.com/FRC. All right. That is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can always reach us. info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.